What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? In this video, I'm going to be going over 5 A+ iFVG setups with a full explanation. If you want to learn more, then I'd probably watch this whole video because it's going to be highly educational. Don't forget to use code DODGY for an Apex account if you want to practice taking these types of setups. And without further ado, let's begin. To start off, if you don't know how my iFVG setups work, the link in the description is a free link to a completely free PDF, which will show you all the ratings and how I usually rate the setups. It basically looks something along the lines of this, and it'll give you access to every single setup that I look for, and it will just make you a better trader in general if you study it. So I suggest definitely downloading this. Anyways, just a little recap. What I look for in every single A+ setup is I always look for a higher time frame fair value gap to the left, or it could be in the same time frame. Okay, and I'll explain that in a second. And I'm looking for some sort of liquidity sweep into that fair value gap and then an inverse out of it. Okay, so I'm looking for an inversion fair value gap here. I'm looking for a sweep of some sort of low here, and I'm looking for a fair value gap to the left. It can be in the higher time frame, like the 15-minute, or it could be a 1-minute inverse off of a 1-minute fair value gap. So let's just get into the examples. First example is actually a trade that ended up being a break-even trade. It did not hit full TP, but it's still a really good setup. So we had our, sweep of a bunch of these lows here. And if you look to the left on the 3-minute and on the 5-minute, we swept into a 5-minute fair value gap as well as sweeping this low right here. And the other thing I like about it is it's in discount. Okay, so discount just basically means we're pretty low in the range, right? If I were to draw a box, and map out this range, we're below 50% of this box. Okay, so we're below 50% of the box. That's when you want to buy. And we have a singular fair value gap right here that was broken with decent momentum. Okay, you can see it was, close above here. So this is where you take the entry. Now, my stop loss is typically a close below the fair value gap. In this case, I actually put a hard stop underneath this order block, which is a whole nother concept. But this is the type I take it. This is the type of trade I take. Now, in this situation here, I actually call this in my live stream. Okay. And I ended up scaling half here for 1 hour because this was a 50% level, and I knew if I was wrong, we'd reject it. Now, that's a lot more advanced, but it's something to think about for the future. So it ended up being a scale half / break even trade, basically. But the reason why this was an A+ setup was because you can clearly see that we swept this liquidity pool into discount, and we got a singular V shape back up. Okay, and this is the type of trade where, if there's a unbalanced fair value gap above, I'm going to scale some. If not, I'm just going to try to go for here, but it just depends. Let's just get into the second example because I'm sure some of you guys are probably still confused. So the second example is on my chart right now. We'll see if you guys can notice it before I say anything, but it is this one right here. Okay, and this is an A+ setup because, one, we're not at low a day. We're generally above that 50% of, kind of where we started. Okay. Now, were we physically above the 50% for this one? No, mechanically we weren't. But here's the thing. For this leg alone, do you see how, we have all this engineered liquidity here, right? So we know the bias is bearish, which is why narrative is key for this. We have this LRR and we retrace to the 50% of this leg. So this, I still count this as, okay, this is on premium, because it made sense to go down here. Now you can see, why is it A+? Well, we're in premium. We delivered from this fair value gap to the left right here. And at the same time, we swept this high. So we swept the high inside fair value gap, got barely any displacement above it. And then you come down, and then here's the close below. So here would be the entry. Okay. And again, this is a one setter for life. I make videos on this all the time. So if you're interested in learning more about this, just type in one setter for life. But there's more to this setup, obviously. But the general idea is this is A+ because we swept the high, came to a fair value gap, closed below it, and we were delivering from a fair value gap. Okay, so that's going to be example number 2. Example number 3 is a very good one. Okay, you can see that this is actually not a singular fair value gap, but subjectively it still is. Okay, so if I ever see a fair value gap kind of little combined, I kind of just combine it into one, and if the candle closes over all 3, that still counts as a setup. In this case, we had a manipulation like here, there's a fair value gap way to the left here. I'm not going to show you it, but there's way, like on the higher time frame, the hourly, there's a fair value gap way over here. Okay, so we tapped in their higher time frame PD array. Okay, and then we just got a very, very big candle over this, which would be an A+ setup because we are in discount. We're at low a day, V shape above, swept liquidity, and delivery out of the fair value gap. And then for this one, I mean, this is generally like an okay target, I guess, right there. You could target higher, but it's up to you. This one I would like targeting because one, it's 2R, and two, there's a fair value gap here, and we don't really know if it's going to break. I think it ended up, yeah, so it ended up breaking, but it doesn't really matter. Targets are a little more subjective. All I care about is you understand, why this is A+. Swept a low a day, delivery from a higher time frame, fair value gap to the left, and we are in discount. Okay, and then there's obviously, good target above. So that would be the third example. Example number 4, same concept. Okay, in this concept, it's actually not singular. We have 2 here, okay, but I kind of combine them. And you can see the A+ setup would be here, okay, and stop loss would be closed below. Now, this one is not super high RR, and, it's negative RR to the internal high, which is probably where I would have scaled. But it's the concept that counts because, this wick could be, here. It could have been there maybe. Okay, so you gotta look at this with a grain of salt, knowing that this could be different in any situation. Okay, but this was A+ because again, we swept liquidity here. Okay, we swept this low, and we're delivering from a gap in discount. Right, we're coming close to low a day. We're not at low a day, but we're very close. We're very bottomed out here. We're sweeping a low inside this fair value gap. Okay, and then we obviously have high momentum back above. Okay, so this would be another A+ setup because of the sweep and the delivery from the fair value gap to the left. And last but not least, this is going to be a 15-minute time frame, but again, same concept applies to every time frame. We have a 15-minute inverse here. Okay, here's the entry, and this is A+ as well because look how low we're coming down. We're at like according to this range. Okay, according to this range. We're very low in the range, right? So this is A+ because we swept all these lows here, right? We swept all these lows specifically. I mean, I guess we marked this one in hindsight, okay? But what matters here is these lows are stacked. So we sweep all these stacked lows, and if you go on the hourly time frame here, we were delivering from an hourly fair value gap, and I actually called this full move before we even got the iFVG, okay? Just because I have other knowledge, okay? Which obviously I talk about this other knowledge in my live streams, but that's paid and this is a free video, okay? But anyways, this is an hourly gap and we're delivering from this hourly gap. So I know this is going to be A+ because we're sweeping liquidity into a low at the lows inside the fair value gap. Now, what would make this only an A setup? What would make this an A setup would be if, you took this one because this is almost like the second entry, right? And it's a little higher. So this would be the A setup, but this would be the A+ because this is the lowest entry you can get, and it's at the low day after, right after we see liquidity and deliver from a fair value gap. Okay. Now this definitely isn't easy, and one of my mentorship students, her name's Eliana. She just got a payout for the first time right when she was about to leave my mentorship. Okay. Now I accepted Eliana to my mentorship because she was having more emotional issues than, kind of understanding the strategy. So I kind of wanted to help her with that because she was really good at the strategy. Okay. And I accepted her knowing I could definitely help her psychology and, show her that she can definitely, make money if she understood the strategy properly, which she did. And you can see here's just a payout. She actually ended up getting a second payout, which I'll show you in a second. But again, Eliana was one of my students in the mentorship, which it's very, very closed off. Okay. I have rejected a lot of people. I did just accept a few more. Okay. But Eliana is one of the people in my mentorship who, I sent her this, guide. Okay. And I've helped her. I've been in calls with her. I've done her journal review. And she's taking setups like this, whereas before she would take setups like this. But this setup right here is going to fail much more than a setup like this, okay? And you can see that she also got a second payout right here. As you can see, $1,200. And it might not seem a lot to you, but now she's a skill to make money just because she understands like the difference between A plus and A setups. And again, I've reviewed all of her trades. I go over her trades in live time. You know, I do these weekly classes with her and stuff, and you know, other mentorship units. So if you guys are interested in joining, you know, I'm not. There's like a 50% chance I don't accept you, but I'm gonna try to change your guys' life. Hopefully, I change Eliana's because now she's a skill to make money. But if you guys are interested, just book a call. With one of my, you know, my buddy's gonna, you know, be in the call with you. So book a call, and if you do get accepted, you'll get access to my number. You'll get access to the weekly journal reviews where I'm gonna, you know, individually view your trades just so you can get a payout, just as Eliana did. Okay, so check that out. But yeah, that's pretty much gonna be it for the end of the video. And you know, I hope to see you guys in the next one. Don't forget to use code Dodgy, and I will see you guys later. Peace.